I'm paying big for this assembly plant, Willard. The least you can do is deliver on time.
I put the president of Karsten Machine Parts himself in charge. What more can you want?
A plant open and functioning by August 1st. I'm sinking too much money on this idea of heavy appliances to afford chances.
I understand perfectly.
Plus, all our advertising calls for product release on December 1st. If you don't deliver, I'll take my costs out of you, Karsten.
You'll take care of that, won't you, Richard?
I don't foresee any immediate problems.
As far as all the promotional printing we're supposed to turn out, how do you want that handled?
You can check that through Richard here.
I'll take care of it.
And Mr. Peterson, product transportation and distribution?
How about it, Willard?
We guarantee that by contract, I think.
We make sure the assembly plant is operating to your full specifications by December 1. After that, you take over.
Richard Beach will be handling that, too.
Beach will handle everything.
Then, as far as I can see from my end of it, this conference is settled. Richard, I'll have Joe Summers check with you on specifications and deadlines.
Sure, I'll set up an appointment.
Good.
Can't see any more reason to prolong this conference. Can you, Willard?
No?
Well, leave it all in Richard's hands, then. Got a big responsibility there, Richard. We've got millions invested in it. If this project falls apart, well, I'd hate to see what might happen to you.
I'll take care of him, Gus, if it falls apart.
Every one of us must face pressures in our daily life. Not all are of the same far-reaching magnitude as the type of pressure which we just heard beginning to unfold. But these tensions we suffer can cause worry which can damage health and ruin the joy of living. The Bible offers much practical counsel about how to face worries realistically and how to overcome them. It's as Jesus indicated to his faithful disciples, so never be anxious about the next day, for the next day will have its own anxieties. Sufficient for each day is its own badness.
We'll have this headache taken care of for you in just a minute, Mr. Beach.
Oh, Carmela, this isn't a headache. This is a migraine that won't stop. And then every time I stand up, I feel dizzy.
I made an appointment for you to see Dr. MacDonald tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock.
I don't see how I'm going to have the time. This Peterson assembly plant is nothing but loose ends. I don't see why Karsten ever got us into this deal.
Here, drink this, Mr. Beach. You'll feel better.
Thanks.
In the meantime, I'll brief you on your appointments.
Thanks.
Mr. Hamilton from engineering will be here at 10:30. At 11, you're supposed to see the account executive from Martin, and Binghamton. 12, you have a luncheon with Mr. Carson. At 2, Joe Summers from Goodman's to see you. And at...
Oh, what are you trying to do, Carmela? You give me something to cure me, and then you start reading my execution. When am I supposed to handle any of my own work?
Part of the responsibility, once you have to start answering for things... Excuse me, please. Mr. Beach's office? Yes. Of course, Mr. Carson. One moment, please. Mr. Carson for you.
Hello? Yes? Don't worry. Delivery date moved ahead? 2 weeks? But we aren't even sure that the Western plant will be able to deliver on... Yes, sir. Okay. Yes, sir.
You look distressed, Mr. Beach.
Well, it's... As it said, the best laid plans of mice and men oft go astray.
Problems?
What else? I think I'll die with this work stacking around my ears and everything going wrong.
More likely you'll wear yourself to death.
Well, then let me do it in peace and quiet and without my head spinning. That's our story, though, Joe. The ad agency can't come up with the layouts on deadline, not layouts anybody approves anyway.
Well, you do all you can. There's no sense in having a heart attack if it won't be done.
It's fine for you to say. You don't have to sit here and take the whole blame. Goodman isn't like Karsten.
Well, I won't go into comparisons of bosses. But as soon as we have those approved layouts and your design, we'll pull all the stops out to have it ready on time. I think we can catch it up for you.
Well, fine. Tell me, Joe, with all the pressures this project is working on everybody, do you take tranquilizers or what?
What do you mean?
I couldn't help noticing at the conference the other day, and even now, you don't seem to be worried. I mean, I'm sure you appreciate the seriousness of the situation, the millions of dollars and thousands of people involved.
I very much appreciate the seriousness. That's all the more reason I try not to let it bother me. You can't think as clearly when you're worried too much about something.
But how can you help but worry when the work is so far over your head you don't even know if daylight exists anymore?
Well, that happens to almost anybody to one degree or another.
Oh, but it's happening to me right now. That's what concerns me. How do you do it, Joe?
Well, frankly, I try to be as practical as possible about it.
Practical?
Yes, I think it's a good idea to be concerned about things and to be actively interested that they get done. But once you've made your plans, you can't afford to let them keep working on you, Richard. Then I try to follow some good Bible counsel that calls for mental discipline.
What kind of mental discipline?
Well, I've got a Bible in my briefcase here. Let me show you in Philippians chapter 4, verses 8 and 9. Finally, brothers, whatever things are true, whatever things are of serious concern, whatever things are righteous, whatever things are chaste, whatever things are lovable, whatever things are well spoken of, whatever virtue there is, and whatever praiseworthy thing there is, continue considering these things. The things that you learned, as well as accepted and heard and saw in connection with me, practice these, and the God of peace will be with you.
The hear no evil, speak no evil, see no evil routine.
No. This is not an exhortation to go into a dream world or not take account of reality. It says to continue considering things that are true, of serious concern, righteous, chaste, lovable, things well spoken of, virtue. Things which we can learn in the Bible, even as this other verse said. The things you learned as well as accepted. Now, these are things from the Bible.
You mean you think Bible reading will keep me from worrying?
That isn't what I said. What I said is this is the idea of filling your mind with what is good rather than what is negative. It's being aware of the things you can enjoy and should enjoy.
You mean like eating, breathing, sleeping, food?
No, it goes deeper than that. Family relationships, the minor and major successes that we may have, the respect from our fellow man. All of these can be good things to treasure. The Bible also gives other very excellent things to keep considering also. It added that the peace of God would be with whoever did that. In any case, the indication is clear. You can have peace of mind.
Suppose you don't believe in the Bible that much.
Well, you wanted to know why I didn't get worried, and I tried to give you a basic idea why and how, for myself, I keep from letting things get me down. It's like it was said in another place. It's in Matthew chapter 6, verse 34. Here, you can read it.
All right. So never be anxious about the next day, for the next day will have its own anxieties. Sufficient for each day is its own badness.
Never be anxious about the next day, for the next day will have its own anxieties.
Yeah, but if you don't worry about tomorrow, you might not have any tomorrow.
And if you do keep worrying, you might not have any tomorrow. Remember ulcers, nervous breakdowns, heart attacks?
What do you say, Joe? Let the day take care of itself?
No. I say you go ahead and take care of the day. But if something is going wrong, try every way to correct it. Whatever it is, it's hardly likely it'll mean the end of your life. Once you face up to the problem, refuse to worry. Discipline your mind to be occupied with constructive things. Help yourself stay calm and cheerful. If you have too much work to do...
Worry about getting it done and not about how much it is.
Yes. Well, you and I both know how you can spend time worrying about how much work there is to be done instead of actually getting it done.
Don't you think it's a little impractical to live that way?
Well, if you want to get a pretty full idea of what Jesus was talking about, it's in Matthew chapter 6 if you want to read it. Nevertheless, the idea is a practical way of keeping from worrying unnecessarily.
Well, I'm going to have to do something about it, Joe. I have to see Dr. McDonald in the morning.
Well, remember, if you get sick, you may not get the job done at all.
Say, Joe, I know we're supposed to be working on this printing angle, but let me see if I can get some more information on it.
As I explained, Gus, everything is under perfect control.
Listen, Willard, I was talking to Beach a few days ago. I'm wondering if he's not falling apart under the strain.
Possibly. He could be a little edgy about the project.
I'm not paying for edgy people.
Beach is a good man. But pressure can get to almost anybody.
He has a point, Mr. Peterson. Pressure could get to almost anybody.
Pressure won't get to me.
That's right, Mr. Peterson. That's one of your amazing capacities. Pressure and worry don't seem to affect you.
That's because I don't worry. I just keep working and get the job done.
It's a marvelous way to be.
That's why you built your company as big as you have.
Well, I haven't built it as big as Karsten.
Well, I've been around a few more years than you have, Gus. But if you don't like Beach, I can always have him replaced by somebody else. Gus, I want to get this job done on time, as I promised you.
All right, Willard. All I have to say is, if Beach goes to pieces on this job, I hope you have a good replacement for it.
Try to remember exactly what Mr. Summers told you, Mr. Beach. Don't worry. There's nothing more you can do than what you've done.
Peterson isn't going to like to pay what 2 weeks advance on that deadline will cost him with the strike at the Redstone plant and...
You don't need to tell me that. Only remember, the strike was out of your hands, and it's settled with production going full blast.
Well, here goes nothing.
Do you mean you're not going to deliver when you said you were?
I call that breach of contract, Mr. Peterson.
I told you, Beach. We had to move the contract time up 2 weeks.
There was nothing we could do about it. We had a strike in the Redstone plant.
That's no concern of mine.
Mr. Peterson, it's a concern of all of us if it's going to be interfering with meeting the schedule you set down.
But I thought Mr. Peterson clearly stated we wanted final delivery 2 weeks ahead of schedule.
Our contract schedule will be made, but the new deadline, it's going to run your costs up more than you might want to pay.
Put extra men on. Hang the expenses.
I'm glad you said that, since we have put extra men on, and extra shifts, extra equipment.
You're cutting into our profit margin now, Beach.
Mr. Karsten, I'm actually taking advantage of the contingency clause in the contract. Mr. Peterson agrees to pay for any extraordinary expense involved to meet any new specifications which he might lay out.
All right. That gives you your answer, Gus.
What's this he's talking about, Mike?
It figures right, Mr. Peterson. If we ordered it, we'll have to pay for it.
All right. But it better be finished on time.
Beach, that was a brilliant piece of work you pulled off with Gus Peterson.
Thanks, Mr. Karsten.
It's a funny thing. Gus and I had only been discussing this morning. You seemed as if the job were you half to death.
Some of it had kind of gotten to me, but I checked with the specialist.
What did he have to say to you?
Well, it's the idea of keeping your mind on the positive things, you know, doing everything you possibly can. After that, you refuse to let yourself worry about it. After all, the next day will have its own anxieties. Basic idea to keep a level head.
Anyway, it worked for you. Now keep up the good work. Karsten can use men like you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Karsten.
So long.
Mr. Beach, why didn't you tell him it was Joe Summers who'd given you the advice, that it came from the Bible?
Well, I'm not sure Mr. Karsten would understand something like that. Besides, it doesn't make me look too good to be taking counsel from the Bible, does it?
I don't think it's so much a matter of making you look good as giving credit where it's due. It at least got you started on the right track, Mr. Beach.
Just leave the running of the office to me, all right?
By no means is the Bible intended to be a guide for success in business. The situation we have heard dramatized illustrates, however, how it can be a practical guide to surmounting tension. That credit cannot be taken away from it.
The program, All Scripture is Beneficial, was produced by the Watchtower Society and presented by Jehovah's Witnesses.